Dear children, welcome to the class. This class we are going to see the continuation of Civics Unit 2. Let us recall what we have learnt in the previous class. The first class we learned about election, what's the election process and how election is conducted in the present day. And in the next class we learned about the political parties. Political parties are essential part of democracy and they are linked between the government and the people we learned. And meaning of the political party we have seen, it's a political party is an organization formed by a group of people with certain ideology and agenda to contest in election and hold power in the government. And what are the types of party prevailed in the countries? Single party, two party and multi-party system. And type of political parties in India we learned. There's national party and state party, how to get recognition for the national party, and what are the different functions of the political parties, and what's the important role of opposite party in a democracy to make a democracy a successful one. Everything we have learned in the previous class. This class we are going to see about the next topic in Civics Unit 2, that's about the pressure groups. This class we are going to learn about pressure groups. Have you heard the word pressure groups, people? What's a pressure group? Let us see about that. The term pressure group is originated in USA. That is, these groups are group of people mainly originated for promoting and defending their common interest. Common interest means interest in the field of not any private interest. Interest in for the welfare of the public. That is for criticizing any government policies or any government orders, law and order made by the governments are not in favor of the people, for criticizing that and for criticizing any politicians' activities or any government authorities' activities, we people are not taking any effort. But these pressure groups which are originated in USA and they are organized mainly with the view of the criticizing and commenting and protesting about the government activities and everything. So the pressure groups are originated in USA and it's a group of people who are organized actively for promoting and defending their common interest. And they are also called by the name interest group or vested groups. But they are different from the political parties. That is, they are neither contest in the election nor try to capture any political power. So the pressure groups, they neither contest in election. They are not trying to capture any position in the government elections or in the capturing any political power like that. Main view is to organize for promoting and defending the common interest of the people. What are the other names for the pressure groups? Interest groups or vested groups. Let us see about the pressure groups in India. So in pressure groups, which are the interest groups or vested groups, for what purpose they are working? To secure certain interest by influencing the public policy. Especially mainly for protecting the public policy they are working. There are large number of pressure groups are there in India. But even though there are large number of groups, they are not well developed as it was developed in the western countries like Britain, France, Germany or in USA. But some examples of pressure groups in India are business groups, trade unions, agrarian groups, professional association, student organization. Business groups mean that is a group for fighting for the or criticizing the policies about the business people. Trade unions, they are mainly framed the policies for the traders. And agrarian groups, that is for the people those who are engaged in agriculture. That groups are making their views. And the professionals mean for teachers, for lecturers, and for doctors, for engineers, some associations are there. And for students also there is a special organization which comes under the pressure group in India. Religious organizations are there and tribal people organizations are there and linguistic groups are there, that is for promoting their language, that groups are functioning. Environmental protection groups are there. And some examples of pressure groups in India, FICCI, that is Federation of Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, All India Trade Union Congress, AITUC, All Indian Kisan Sabha, Indian Medical Association, IMA, All India Students Federation, AISF, All India Shiksha Student Federation, then Tamil Sangam is there, Tamil Nadu Vivasayiga Sangam, Narmada Panchan Antolian is also there. These are the important pressure groups which are working in India. About these pressure groups, it is given in your book in the column, do you know? So children, in pressure groups in India, there are a lot of numbers, but they are not developed as in the western countries. So people, what's a pressure group? It's a group of people who are organized actively for promoting and defending their common interest. What are the other names for them? Interest group or vested groups, but they are different from the political parties. They do neither contest election nor try to capture any political power. In India, we have a lot of pressure groups, but they are not developed so well, and some examples of pressure groups we have seen. Let us see about the functions of pressure groups in India. So the pressure groups, they are the interested groups. With their own voluntary activity, they are working for securing certain interest by influencing the public policy. But they never aligned with the political party. They work independently as an indirect powerful group to influence the policy decision. Who are making the policy for our people? The government is making the policy for our people. But the pressure groups, they do not participate in the policy decision, but the great influence was made by the pressure group, by criticizing the previous policies, by giving advice to the government, by acting as a representation of the people in a political participation, and giving lot of changes in the education and also policy formulation and implementation. Pressure groups are acting very powerfully and influencing the government to make the correct function for the people. So pressure groups carry out the range of functions which are including representation, political participation, education, policy formulation and policy influence. Let us see about some important functions of the pressure group in detail. One of the important functions of the pressure group is their political participation. They do not directly participate in politics, but they call the informal phase of the politics. Why they called as the informal phase of the politics mean they exert influence, exerting, that is act, they are bringing their influence, they are insisting their influence preciously by mobilizing popular supports through the activities such as providing petitions. Suppose any policy is not apt to the people's welfare, these groups are providing petitions. Marches mean they are forming the group and march against with their voices, raising their voices against the government policies and doing their demonstrations on the street and some other policies for protest. And by all these activities, they are attracting the people also. That is, the political participation of the pressure group is not by directly joining with the political parties. How did they import their political participation? They exerting influence preciously by mobilizing certain powers, and they are supporting the activities by petitions and marches, demonstrations and other forms of the political protest. Some examples for this political protest and some of the marches are given on the pictures. Look at the pictures and understand them. Look at this picture, children. This picture shows that what are the important works done by the pressure groups. That is, and what are the marches they did, what are the demonstrations made by them, and what are the protests made by them for making our country a efficient one, to making the government an efficient one and criticizing the government policies. Lot of protest marches, demonstrations are made by the pressure groups against the taxes, against racism, etc. The next important function of the pressure group is education. Their participation in making the education policies by keeping some of the association and some of the websites are very important. So these pressure groups, they have the research people, especially by well-learned, high-profile academics, scientists, and even they are consulting the celebrities and ask the scientists to carry out the research in particular field and maintaining the websites and commenting on the government policies, and they use all these to cultivate the expert authority to the people, especially in Twitters, in Instagrams, in Facebook, all the medias. They are using them to motivate the people about the present educational policies, how to improve the educational policies, what are the steps needed for improving the educational policies. Everything is made by the pressure groups. Many pressure groups devote significant resources by carrying out research, maintaining websites, commenting on government policies, and using high-profile academics, scientists, and even celebrities to get their views across with an emphasis to cultivate the expert authority. So the pressure groups, which are the interest or vested groups, they are effectively give their role in political participation and also in improving the education policies of the India. Another important function by the pressure group is the policy formulation. So it helps the government to formulate their policies properly. They are not the policy makers, but they are the vital source of information to advise the governments. Many pressure groups are therefore regularly consulted in the process of policy formulation by the government. So governments create policy networks. However, questions have been raised about the policies are put before the pressure groups. Only a small number of privileged groups, which are called as the insider groups, are involved in the policy formulation, and many of the pressure groups are influencing the policy formulation as they are not elected or not accountable to the public, but the government should be answered to the questions put forth by the pressure groups. So the pressure groups are regularly consulted in the process of policy formulation by the government. So though the pressure groups themselves are not policy makers, yet it does not prevent many of them from participating in the policy making process. But many pressure groups are vital source of information and render advice to the government, and therefore they are regularly consulted in the process of policy formulation. So policy formulation is also one of the important function of the pressure groups. So far we learned what are the functions of a pressure group, that is political participation, education, and also policy formulation. We are going to end this lesson, people. Last topic of this lesson is about the mobilization and people's participation in democracy. So what is mobilization? Mobilization means you may think that moving from one place to another place. Here it doesn't mean that. This mobilization means people should move towards the productive activities to help the government to make the better environment to people's life, which is essential for the people to live in a better environment. That people must mobilize towards the socially productive activities. Some people are moving on because of earthquake, tsunami, flood, and some other thing, or due to natural disasters. Not this mobilization. Here the mobilization is people must come forward to help the government to do some productive activities to live the better condition for the people. And also people must effectively participate in the democracy. So democracy is a very good form of government, but democracy should be successful only if every citizen participate in a democracy properly. That is, they must take action and support the tax and revenue collection system and observe the national norms in environmental protection, to give importance for the cleanliness, health and hygiene, sanitary drives, and immunization programs like there is a polios, everything to fight against the polio. The government has framed lot of policies to improve the people's life, but to fight against the miseries of the human life. Miseries mean that diseases comes across the people, everything comes under the miseries of the human life. Government is formulating so many policies. People must cooperate with the government. So the better democracy is depend upon how the people are united along with the government and should come together to fight against the miseries of human life. Okay, children, it is very important to keep it in mind. The mobilization of the people towards the socially protective activity and effective participation in the democracy are very important to make the democracy a successful one. So children, let us concluding this class, just recall what we have learned in this class. That is, we learned about what are pressure groups. Pressure group means they are maybe called as the interest group or vested groups, which is originated in USA, and it's a group of people who are organized actively for promoting and defending their common interest. Okay, and these pressure groups are different from the political parties because they neither contest election nor try to capture political power. And in India, the pressure groups are many in number, but they are not so well developed as in USA and the European countries. Some of the examples of pressure groups are business groups, trade union, agrarian groups, professional association, students organization, religious organizations, etc. And we learned about the functions of pressure group in India also. Pressure groups carry out the range of functions including representation, political participation, education, policy formulation, and policy implementation. We learned in depth about the political participation, education, and policy formulation and their influence of the pressure group in these all. At last, we are learning about the mobilization and people participation in democracy. That is, people should mobilize towards the socially productive activities that lead to overall betterment of people's life is essential. And democratic participation, democracy is the best form of government. But it should be best only every citizen can take action part and cooperate with the government to fight against the miseries of human life. So with this people, we are ending the Civics Unit 2. In the Civics Unit 2, what we have learned? We learned about the election and electoral system in India, election process in India, different type of elections in India, what are the merits and demerits of the elections, and about political parties, their meaning and types of political parties, what's a national party, what's a state party, and what are the functions of political parties, and what are the role of the opposition party, and about the pressure groups, their functions. So hope that you understand the concept of the lesson well. Children, the assignment is follows. People, as we have completed this lesson, the assignment is read the lesson from your book and find answers for the book back, choose, fill up, match the following. That is all the one word questions. So in the coming next Saturday class, I will give you the complete assignment answers and also the markings of short answers and paragraphs. Thank you, children.